Lovely. So I'm just starting to record now, just so you guys know. Lovely. So thanks for joining. This is our first one for October on our screen sessions, Zoom sessions that we're doing. I'll just run through a little bit of Zoom etiquette. I know like I've met some of you before, some of you I haven't met, and hopefully we'll get to meet you in person in the future. But I probably want this to be kind of a relaxed environment where we can all share some information as well. So it's not just me standing here talking a lot. I have a habit of talking a lot. So if you ever do want to interrupt, just, say be quiet, or those who have your screen up, just pop your hand up and I'll stop talking if you've got a question that you'd like to ask as well. Obviously we've got our backgrounds muted. That's great. Just unmute yourself if you want to butt in and say something too, or I'll stop and I'll encourage some questions as well. Probably what I thought we could do to start with is if we just go around the room, even if I introduce your name, and then we can just say who we are, what salon we're from and what state we're in, just as a bit of an icebreaker, just so we can start chatting, would be really good as well. And like I said, if you have any questions or you want to know something as I'm talking, please feel free just to stop me there. So Nathaniel, if I could probably get you to unmute and just introduce yourself, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. My name's Nathaniel. As you can see, I own Plumage Salon in Melbourne, in Kew in Melbourne. Jackie, who's here, works with me.
Oh, cool.
And we've got another couple of girls as well.
Yeah, lovely. How long have you had the salon for?
It's 3 years.
Yeah, awesome. And
yeah.
Been away for how long?
From the start.
From the beginning. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
So, Bren, would you like to go next? That's okay. You just have to unmute your microphone. Oh, I can do that for you. Yeah. She's not done it.
Unmute. There we go.
Cool.
All good?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Great. I've just started working with Oway 4 weeks ago, so it's all very new to me. I'm a L'Oreal and Goldwell girl, so It's all very, very new and exciting.
Yeah, cool. Lovely. Thank you. And the salon you're at is in Canberra, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We're the only ones with Oway because there's not many in Australia, is there?
Salons?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of hundred of us floating around here in New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah, there's more. I think obviously because it's obviously being European-based products, and obviously in North America, there's a lot more activity online regarding the products. But yeah, we're slowly creeping up there. We're opening new accounts all the time, which is great. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Awesome. Eve, would you like to let us know who you are and where you're from? Would be great.
I'm from Geelong and I rent a space. I've been working for myself, I think, for 4 years now.
Yep.
And using Oway for 2 years.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you very much. And Monique?
I'm from Melbourne. I am just assisting in Privé hair salon, just doing a couple of shifts here and there. I mainly work as a freelance hair and makeup artist, so I'm just filling in, helping out.
Oh, cool. Great. I think I spoke to, I was emailing Jay this morning regarding extra training as well coming up. So that's cool. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Lovely. Okay. Well, I'll get started. And I suppose it's obviously this is different for a lot of salons because obviously like some of you guys are still in lockdown and obviously you had a little bit of a break when you came out. So you've experienced some sort of like post-color traumas what the clients have done on their hair. And yet to probably see some more. Whereas we now, obviously other states are a little bit more up and running. They've kind of done a few color corrections and got through with that. Sorry, just pop that up. There you go, it's 1287. Cool. So I think the types of home color and problems that we're going to see and arise and what to expect is one thing we need to be aware of when they're coming back into the salons, how to identify these problems with the client and to get a right course plan of action to be able to take with them. So I believe color consultation is paramount, especially, in any sort of color makeover. they're pretty much going to be color corrections when they come back in, those who have colored their hair. So this is probably where I'm aiming this Zoom session, is ways to overcome post-lockdown color and looking at it as a color correction. And we all know that color corrections can't be done in one service a lot of the times. So doing a proper consultation and breaking down what they've got, where you want to go to, and how many steps it's going to take to do that is really important. I'm also going to cover through ways Oway have an NLH system, how we have that implemented to help you guys have the integrity of the hair through the whole process, and how we can use these products to work to our benefit as well. And also covering a little bit of in-salon treatments and take-home products that can help them. Oh, we see we do have another addition there. So during lockdown, the ways that clients will be covering their hair with colour is going to be all different. And I suppose when you look at like media and you're watching television and they're advertising, you know, a colour that covers grey, but it'll slowly fade away, that pretty much lends us to believe that there's no real true semi or demi-permanent colour on the market. So when someone is going to colour their own greys at home, you pretty much guarantee that it's going to be a box dye, it's going to come from a chemist or a pharmacy, and it's going to be a permanent colour. Whether that gives full coverage or not is irrelevant. It's still going to be like a permanent dye in the hair. They will also have advertised demi-permanent colours that they'll say will last 12 to 24 washes. We know that with any sort of colour that's going to give any sort of grey blending in a demi, that it's still going to contain a permanent colour molecule when we're going to need to reassess how we're going to fix that as well. You have your semi-colours, so clients will be out there using coloured lotions or coloured mousses. So if they do that over porous blonde hair, that's obviously going to create a problem for us as well. And also your temporary colours, like your crayons and your cover-up sprays, which aren't really going to pose that much of an issue, but they're the type of tools that clients are going to use when they can't get into the salons to do it. And then you've got probably the worst one they could do, which is home bleaching or home lightening of their hair. So that's obviously opens another whole can of worms when it comes to the condition of their hair, any sort of bandage or breakage that they're going to have. We're not going to cover scalp conditions in this, as opposed to if they did damage to their scalp. That's another whole topic where we probably would refer them on to someone medical as well. This is more to do with the hair. And during this time too, there's been a lot of amazing YouTube videos that salons have put out, you know, instructing how to do your own home color. If they've provided a kit from the salon, that's great. I know some salons did that as well, where the client would ring up, would have a virtual Zoom session. We could pre-box their colors for them, send them out, and they could do it themselves. I think the benefit of that was to make sure that at least the client's still having some sort of consistency with the color that they're doing at home. So when they did come back in, at least we knew the product as well. It still can create problems because they're going to get their boyfriends, their girlfriends, they're going to get their husbands. I'm just going to let Linda in the room as well. They're going to get their husbands popping on the color, which means that could probably not necessarily be an amazing outcome if they're like misfits or overlap sections as well. So that's great that some salons, sorry for example, hi Linda, how are you?
Thanks.
That's good, welcome aboard. Just so you know, I'm also recording this session if that's okay, because there's some people that can't make it, so that's all right with you.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, feel free to ask during the course of this, but depending on the background noise, we're just asking everyone to mute their microphones if that's okay, just so it doesn't cut in. And then if you have a question, you can unmute. That'd be great. So we've just covered a few areas of colours potentially that clients will do on their own hair at home during this lockdown period and broken those down. So basically now, what sort of examples we're going to get when it comes into the salon is we're going to have most likely uneven bands is probably going to be your biggest one. So where you'll have like a section of regrowth that hasn't covered properly and is translucent, overlapping of color. So then you might have a darker band, and then you'll have issues where the ends are faded out, and obviously they haven't had the right tools to refresh the ends and blend that in. So the most common is going to be uneven bands, uneven levels of color. So hair that has been lifted, whether it be with a permanent color or a bleaching product. So as it's lifted up, you'll have dark areas, light areas, potentially orange areas if they've used a bleach product. One of the ones that I think was most common that we saw was a lot of overtoning. So clients using home blonde shampoos or retail blonde shampoos that they can do themselves. It's a huge misconception, and it really bugs me sometimes, whereas as not even colorists ourselves, but when somebody has, you know, yellow in their hair and they've got existing blonde highlights, that they think putting a blue shampoo on it is actually going to tone out or is strong enough to tone out our base color of, say, pale yellow on a level 9 and do nothing on the really white blonde hair they get. So what happens is the level 9 pretty much doesn't really move that much, but their blonde hair gets darker and darker and darker, almost grey and flat looking, and therefore they lose the complete look of being blonde anyway. They almost look dull and flat. And we found that's a lot. So I think when we're retailing these specific problems, we really need to educate them on how to use them, whether if they're only shampooing their hair once or twice a week, they only really need to use it once a week or once a fortnight, because they're not going to remove enough of that blue pigment. And when they're reapplying it, tone on tone will just get darker and darker and darker. So one thing we found was everyone's hair was like matte and flat and almost grey looking. So how do we overcome that as well? Color results becoming either too bright or too dark. So they've put a color on their hair, the box says light brown, and they do it, and then they almost look black. And therefore they'll come to us and say, fix it, it's too dark. Or putting something on their hair and it throws too much warmth because, you know, they've got a lot of red in their hair. And then the worst would be breakage. So from people doing home bleaching, and we've all seen it, we've seen it on YouTube, and people are applying bleach on their hair and they run a comb through and it all kind of leaves their head at the same time. It's scary. It's going to happen. Consultation is paramount. Doing a really good consultation and delivering a consultation and breaking the steps down. So we have Oway color diagnostic forms that I've done up. And if you want those, I can shoot you a link to those so you can print them out. It's a really good tool to have in the salon when you're new to Oway, like Bren, and you're breaking down someone's hairs, you know, natural color, where you want to get to. It just breaks down what steps. We've all done it in our hairdressing apprenticeship, and we all forget sometimes. We all get so used to doing color, we just go, yeah, that needs a 6.1 or that needs a 7.3. But then, you know, they could have 10% of resistant grey hair that you might have overlooked, and then you worry why you've got a little bit of translucency in your color. So I tend to always refer to them a lot, and I'm in the habit of doing it because I'm teaching it. So I now, for the last 6 months, have really become used to using these forms, and they're a really good tool when you have new staff or you're training apprentices as well. So they really do break down that structure of the consultation to get to the right result. So I find with a color correction, they're an awesome tool to use because they stop you from forgetting what you need to go through, and points to remember, and, you know, breaking the mid lengths and ends down and really working what levels and tones you need to put on to get it. So they're there if you ever want me to send you a link to those, and you can just print them out and have them as some training tools in the salon. So the consultation obviously is to determine, you know, exactly what product you're going to need to get what result, and enable you to work in the allocated time that you've got. So I think a lot of clients might also call up after this post-color lockdown or color correction, and they'll say, you know, oh, I just want to go a little bit lighter. And then you're thinking, oh, cool, a few face frames. They come in and they've got brown hair and they show you a picture of someone who's this icy blonde. And you're like, right, I've got 45 minutes to do this. It's not going to happen, okay? You can dive right in and run 2 hours late for the rest of the day, or you can say to them, okay, you know, our expectations today are only going to be at this level. This is how I can start. It's not going to be good to have to totally rebook them on another day, but doing a proper consultation is going to let them know the realistic expectations of each visit and how long it's going to take to get that color done right. So I think consultation to me in anything, whether it's a haircut or a color correction, is so important. And it's most likely not going to happen in one go. And you'll have more credibility as a stylist if you're honest and just say that. You know, you really, you know, this is going to take me 3 or 4 goes or 2 goes to get here. At this stage, does anyone have any questions or anything they want to add? No? Covering? Cool. So ways of which we can actually lighten hair in the salon or remove pigment. So we have a product called 0.0, which is obviously one of our color tubes. We've all seen it on the color chart. On the color chart, it's actually called Lightning Booster. Now, it was something that when I first started with Oway and I looked at the Lightning Booster, I was like, wow, cool. What does this little number do? It's basically a blonding cream. So brand new who have trained with Goldwell in the past, you will know that they've got a product called blonding cream. So blonding cream will lift 1, 2, 3, 4 levels, depending on what developer you mix it with, but you're always going to get an underlying natural pigment. Okay, there's no control in that. And 0.0 works exactly the same way as that. If you want to remove or expand the cuticle and push out some pigment, it will actually remove artificial pigment as well. So mixing it with, you do need to use 30 or 40 volt to do that. But say, for example, if you've got someone that has some uneven bands going through the mid-lengths and ends, you have 2 choices. You can mix up some H-bleach with either 10 vol or 20 vol, some water and some shampoo, and you can remove that if you're going lighter, or you can use 0.0. 0.0 takes longer to develop. You're looking at more of a 35 to 45 minute processing time, but it's a much more even lift. It's less stressful on the hair, but you're only going to get maybe 1 to 2 levels of that dark pigment pushed out. If you hit natural hair with it, it will lighten that as well, like a blonding cream will, but you'll get left with still your natural remaining pigment. So just be careful with your application. But I found 0.0 is a beautiful way to remove buildup of color, even if it's just like 1 shade, or they're a dark brown and they just want to go that little bit lighter. I would use 0.0 and say 30 vol, and then process it, rinse it, and then you can go in with your target color. And then obviously we have our H-bleach, which is obviously full of our butters and oils, which is nice and conditioning. That will also lift using lightning shampoos as well, but it will work a lot quicker than what your 0.0 will. So it also depends on what time you have allocated for that. But if you've got someone coming in and you've had a consultation and you can schedule them in with the right amount of time, if you've never used 0.0, give it a go. It's actually really, really nice to use for color removal. I love it. And the hair feels amazing after you've colored it back. Has anyone ever used 0.0 for that? Do you want to give us an example and tell us how you went with that?
I've routinely used it for a whole lot of different applications.
Yep.
But yeah, look, it's my go-to for cleaning out build-up of toners on the ends of blonde.
Great.
It's very, very gentle on the hair. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's great. It's really good. So for the clients that, like Nathaniel said, that has that overtoned shampoo look, or they might have done something at home and it's built up a little bit, it's really good to, you can do your foils with it. And while your foils are in, you can go through the mid-lengths and ends of all the rest of the hair and apply your 0.0 and either 10 vol. If it's already going over blonde hair, you don't need a stronger vol for that. Because it does take a little bit longer to come down, you've got a controlled process with that. So obviously you would start in your bluer or gray areas first, apply the product, and it can sit the whole time while you're processing your blonde foils, and all come off together. So it's a really good way to do your color. And if you don't have the assistants around to keep an eye on it, you can go off and do another regrowth application or another set of foils, knowing that this one's going to be okay. It's going to take a little while to come down, but you're going to remove that overtone, which is really good. Obviously, they're all mixed with our H catalyst and H tone, so we all know what they are. They're full of conditioners as well. They're a cream because they're a beautiful consistency with their oils and butters as well. So you're going to get the integrity through the process with your support products as well. Obviously, we have H system, which is really awesome. H system the main ingredient list for H system is your hibiscus extract, your cotton proteins. It's got jojoba oil in it, some date oil, your peptides, your rice bran oil. It's all designed to reconstruct the hair as it lives. We are very lucky that we have this. I've worked with a few other color brands in the past, and a couple of them have a post-color conditioner. That's about it. These guys have a full system to support you when you're doing that. So these are your go-to products when you do have a color correction or a post-color disaster, that when you're removing pigment or you're coloring back or you need to treat your hair, really look at your H system and break it down and work out, where can I put this product during the course of this technical service to really benefit my outcome and to make my color last longer. So one of the biggest things is with color. Color is attracted to protein. Okay, so when you have weak hair and you have unstructured hair, and which is why a lot of people, I do get asked a lot of times, why do my toners don't last very long? Because toners will go over hair that's been pre-lightened. So even though our lightener is beautiful and it's conditioning, you still are sensitizing the hair. You still are mucking up its protein levels as well. So color will release quicker from hair that's not as strong. Okay, so everything we need to do, we need to make sure we put a layer of protein back into that. So our support products, say for example, like H Milk No Stress, this little number, he's great. I use him all the time. I use him in a lot of different ways, but for the course of today, I'll tell you how I use H Milk with this one. H Milk, it's pretty much designed to use within and post technical services. You can use it as a pre-technical service if you have someone coming to you that has really stressed out hair from another salon, hopefully, and they'll come in and they've got, you know, their mid-lengths and ends might be quite dry and stressed. You can definitely go in with H Milk No Stress and do a pre-treatment before the service on the same day. Whereas your rebuilding treatment, we don't recommend you do that on the same day as a color service. If you have to, because the client lives a long way away and they're only coming to the salon to see you and everything, you would do your rebuilding treatment first, like you would do your H Milk No Stress, only because after a color, it takes a little while for the color pigment to settle down. We like to leave it a week because we push the proteins and the ingredients from the rebuilding treatment so deep into the hair, you can upset that color molecule as it's stabilizing. And I've done an example when I've done a toner to know that it works, and it does work. So then I had to go back and retone again, but it was on a model, so it was all good. But you really need to do your treatment first. So adding that layer of protein over the hair first is amazing. So H Milk protects and moisturizes the hair during the lightening stage. So for example, if you've done a full head lighten or a set of foils and you rinse those and you then use your H Balance shampoo, you could do your H Milk No Stress as a normal conditioner amount size, run it through the hair and leave it on for 2 to 5 minutes. They say 2 minutes. I like to leave all my treatments on for a little bit longer. So 2 to 5 minutes, rinse that off, towel dry, and then go back and reapply your toner or your final color on if you need be as well. So you're depositing that vegetable protein, which isn't to be confused with a synthetic protein, which sometimes can harden the hair. This one won't. It never really makes the hair super stiff and coarse like some proteins can do. So it's more inviting for that color molecule to be attracted to. So it has a rebuilding action, which is awesome. It's obviously not a take-home product. It can be a take-home product if you drop a couple of H Milk drops in there and make a coral colored conditioner. We do that with our H Milk No Stress because they're not using that all the time. So they're getting a treatment and a color refresher in one go. So H Milk, amazing. Then also when you're toning your foil after that, you'd be mixing H Milk in with your H tone 9 vol to drop your developer to a 4.5 or a 3 vol when you're toning. So you also get the added benefit of a cream treatment toner. So we're so lucky we've got something like H Milk in our family. So when someone does have stressed hair, or we're stressing it out a little bit more by trying to remove these colors and match it up, we've got a treatment. Next is your H Restore spray. Amazing. So I think of it as I don't want to say watered down, but like a liquid version of H Milk No Stress. I work with that on my trolley all the time when I'm doing a color. For example, if Jackie was to come in and want her roots done with me, and she said, you know what, I'm loving the color of my ends, I just want a little refresher. And we said, okay, well, we can match that up for you. I would spray the H Restore through her hair, on her dry hair, deposit a small amount of phytoproteins, vegetable proteins on her hair, then apply the color straight over the top. Once again, you've got the color attracted to the protein and it helps lock that color in. And then you would use, I would also post-spray her hair with that afterwards as well, like you would a leave-in conditioner. It's amazing to spray through blonde highlights at the basin just to help tangle free them a little bit before you put your toners on as well, and just give it that soft coating of protein. So depending on how stressed the hair is, I always think H Milk is your stronger, more intense version, and your H Restore is your lighter one. So if you don't need as much protein or as much conditioning agents, you would use your H Restore as well. So, and you can apply that on wet or dry hair, which is great. Obviously, we have our H Balance shampoo and our H Balance mask, crucial for removal of color. We have obviously MEA in our product, no ammonia. So MEA, when water hits it, turns to a solid. So you must remove the MEA with your H Balance shampoo, so it does actually remove from the hair and stop oxidization. If a color keeps oxidizing, it's not going to do like serious damage to the hair, but it might upset your final color result as well. But it's just to remove it. You don't want any of that sitting on anyone's scalp or anything like that. So that's where the H Balance shampoo comes in, and it preps the hair beautifully for your H Balance mask. So your H Balance mask is all pH controlled. So all the H system works on the pH level of the hair. So we have a pH of a 3 and 4, which is amazing for shrinking down that cuticle. So once again, we are so lucky to have a product to use after we've done a color correction, so we can actually maintain the integrity, really close that cuticle down and lock in that color. And it's a great detangler. Like, it's one of the best conditioners I've used at the basin to actually get your comb right through the hair. Does everyone notice that, how good it is to do that? Yeah, it's great. Another little one that sometimes gets overlooked is your H screen. So during a color, because of the ingredients in H screen, which is your rice bran oil, basically all your oils that are listed at the top in your Opedia, you've got your rice bran, your date oil, jojoba, Pirelli oil, they are all in H screen. Predominantly H screen is marketed towards color stain prevention, so you can apply it to your hairline. If you're doing any sort of full head lightening or color correction where you need to use H bleach, I would always put it on the hairline anyway, and I always do it on the top of the ears, because it doesn't matter how careful I am. For some reason, my brush always hits the client's ear, so I always end up having color on there. So I always put a bit of H screen on the ear too. The other really good thing about it is you can put it directly into your product. So you can put 4 or 5 pumps into your H color or H bleach, and that's going to protect the scalp as well. So anyone who may have done a home color at home might have some sort of irritation from the color they're using, hence they're sourcing an Oway salon, because we have reduced sensitivity, if any. So H screen is a really good backup for you guys to put into H bleach or your H color when you're doing a service. It's really good for clients that have existing skin irritations like psoriasis, or if they've had, look, you want to be careful with open wounds no matter what. I'm not going to say to you, put H screen on an open wound and it's going to protect it, but it's definitely going to reduce sensitivity on the skin. But the really good thing about it is it's amazing for the hair. Because of those essential oils in it, it makes the hair super shiny. So if you have a client that's come in due to doing a home color, or you have to do some color removal to try to help that, put a couple of pumps of H screen in your tint, or your bleach when you're using it. Superb. It's like a leave-in shine treatment. It's really, really, really good. It won't affect the results of your color at all, but it's a really good product to use because of those oils. It's great. Does anyone ever do that? Put it in there for shine? Cool. I have to watch out for you, Nathaniel. You probably want my job, see? Teach you anything. So when we've gone through all our consultation process and we've realized that, okay, we've got some uneven banding, just different ways to help that. So we've probably come to realize that we've got our uneven banding because there's different layers and different levels of tint that have been put on. It could be different uneven processing times, or just that they've chosen different products when they've been at home. They've liked the picture on that box and they've used that picture, and then they like the picture of that one and they've used that one, not really realizing that you've used completely two different chocolate browns and you're going to get a different color. So how can we overcome this? Well, hopefully the easiest way to do that is if their banding is at the root area, because you can do a root stretch. Okay, so number one, root stretches are great. So bringing out the color that we've chosen, going over the top of their banding. So obviously you would need to choose the darkest color in that band. So if they were a level 5 and they had 6 on the ends, 5 at the roots with a band of 4, you would need to go in with a level 4 and even that out. So that, you know, in the real world would be the most perfect way to do that. If they came to you and said, I don't want to go as dark as my band, then you have to think, how do I remove this band in their hair? So a good application for doing that is you'll need to grab some cotton wool if it's off the root area, because you don't want that hair sitting on each other. And as you're going through your sections and you're targeting out that band area, using either your 0.0 or your H Bleaching 10 bowl, and actually applying your product, starting at the nape and working your way up to that band area, placing a strip of cotton wool in, and then letting the next layer of hair fall over, so that lightening product isn't collapsing on each other and causing, you know, more bleeding or more stainage. It's a cumbersome application, but it's something that you need to do when you're targeting that to remove that band and then lifting the color up. When you're doing that, that's when you would go back to your H system and going, right, I've just, you know, pre-lightened or pre-aerated. You could do a H milk in between, or fill the hair with H restore before you go back through with your target level at a 5. So removing those bands, that I found is the best way, doing a global application to get rid of a band. If, for example, you didn't have enough time or they weren't booked in for long enough, you've always got the option to work through the top section first. So you could do your level 5 through everywhere else, knowing that in essence, you're going to get a bit of breakage from that 4, but you still might have some sort of banding underneath. But another technique that I've used quite a bit is taking just really, really fine sections through the top of my color, and actually going in with either 0.0 or H Bleaching 10 bowl and actually painting that over and creating a lighter veil, which you then can color back with a semi at the basin to match up, but at least that's going to break up that color and give you more of an even tone through the top. It's ideal for a quick fix, but then, you know, ideally removing the band in total is the best way to do it. But I found in shorter cases, it's enough to get you through where you can reschedule that client in for the longer service with that. Just keep in mind when using 0.0, as you're probably aware, Nathaniel, that you do need to use a higher bowl when you're removing. 10 bowl and 0.0 is not going to give you one level of lift. It's going to pretty much do not much at all. Unless it's super fine hair and you're at a level 8 and you want to go to a 9. When you're talking about levels 4 through to 5, and they're dark solid colors, you will need 30 and 40 volt to get that 0.0 to work like a blonding cream to activate. It's going to give you much more lift on natural hair as it is the hair that's had the artificial pigment put in it. So just be careful with your application there. So home bleaching. Has anyone experienced anyone coming in with like home bleaching hair and had to do anything to it? Yeah. How did you go, Nathaniel, with that?
Well, I guess it's not been recently because we've been in lockdown for most of this year. But yeah, I've had young girls whose mums haven't allowed them to go to a salon to have their hair lightened, and they've done a bit of damage themselves at home. Look, in most of those cases, we've been able to highlight out areas with a very low volume developer, and then root stretch with a toner to try and blend out some of the patchiness.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's targeting those areas, and so obviously when they're going to do some home lightening, it's going to be uneven. Okay, you're going to get orange, you're going to get yellows. Then if they've had previous color on the ends, it's going to be really, really light. They most likely have tried to use a toner afterwards, or a home colored shampoo and conditioner with tone in it, which means their ends are going to be probably gray, which is going to make their orange and yellow look even worse than if they left their ends just blonde to start with. So it can be a real mess. So obviously sitting down and thinking, okay, the first thing you need to do is see what integrity that hair is, like what condition it's in. Do I need a course of treatments first before I go in and start lightening it up? Could it be just a H-Milk no stress at the basin to start with first? Or do I need to do a couple of rebuilding treatments to really activate and pump in that protein? Has anyone done or used the rebuilding treatments in salon with the irons? Has anyone ever done it? No, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. The irons have been designed with an infrared plate on one side and almost like a sonic plate on the other side. So it's designed to really create those sound waves to push the product deeper into the hair. I did a couple just recently in a salon as a demo, and the contrast between before and after was amazing. It was so good. So that's what if someone had really, really, really damaged hair, we would want to build it up first before we went back in and then started lightening out. That's all up to personally and looking at the hair and assessing, you know, how far can you go? We all know as colorists and stylists how much hair is going to take before it lets go. So it's really case subjective there. I always like to cover myself and think, okay, well, you know, if it's that much of a disaster and they've lived with it for so long, an extra day or two is not gonna hurt. So reassess it. Do your course of protein and moisture treatments to rebuild it up. Obviously then, like Nathaniel was in, you're going in and you're targeting your less lifted areas. So those areas that are going to prone to be more orange, more yellow is where you want to concentrate your lightening. This is if they want to continue going light, of course. And then what you want to do is remove that pigment and lighten them up, still keeping the integrity of the hair as well. And then you have your options to, when you've rinsed that, you can do a H-Milk treatment at the basin, rinse that out. I would then go through and spray, towel dry it really well, and then go through and spray a little bit of H-Restore, basically as a primer. That's what it is. It's a porosity equalizer is the best way to describe it. So you're filling up all those little gaps, especially if they've got old bleach on the ends of their hair, because we know that that's going to grab color quicker anyway, especially, so we need to be aware when we're toning with that. And then obviously after we've put on our toner, diluting our H-tone down to our toner levels is really important. I tend to always drop mine to a 3-vol. So that's 2 parts H-Milk to 1 part H-tone. That's going to give you a much more conditioning treatment-based application of your toner, because you've got all that H-Milk in it as well. And choose your toner correctly so you can leave it on for as long as you can. So obviously if you've got hair that's a lot more damaged on the ends, it's going to really suck in that toner. So if you need a 10.1 toner, you're not going to just run that 10.1 straight through. You would put the 10.1 on the targeted areas that need more control. Watch how that develops and comes down. You might need to mix up a little bit of 10.3 in your 10.3.1 before you run it through the ends to make a beige, or just at the very last minute or so run it through. So you're just giving it some sort of fill tone so the 10.1 can work on. So it's really important to do that. And I like to leave my toners on for 10 to 20 minutes. I prefer them on for 20. I'm a huge believer that when you're toning hair, that one shampoo is 1 minute's worth of processing. So in between color services with blondes, if you're getting a blonde coming in 6 to 8 weeks and they're shampooing their hair, you know, 2 times a week, there's your 20 washes. So the longer you can leave the pigment on the hair to swell, the more it's going to lock in. I'm not one for going, okay, well, I'll go for the strongest toner I've got. I'll put it on, I'll watch it, I'll rinse it just before it grabs, and it's been on for 3 minutes. They're going to get like 2 weeks out of their toner. because the blonde hair will just let that go because it hasn't swelled up as much. So I find doing 3 vol as my toner developer and leaving them on for as long as you can. If you don't have all that time to do it, a really good tip is to get a little bit of hypercolor. And for say every 10 grams, so I've worked out the ratios and just worded it a little bit different. For every 10 grams of color, I put in 4 drops of hypercolor into your product first, mix it in, and then add your developer. If you put a warm towel over the top of your client's head, that's going to create a little bit of heat. Then obviously the scalp is going to create heat from the client, and that's going to give you a longer development time. So pretty much 10 minutes under a warm towel at the basin is going to give you about a 20-minute process. So that's going to give you a little bit of a time saver in the salon. So hypercolor is an amazing tool. And once again, it's part of the H system and it's essential oils. So you get beautiful shine from that as well. When I use hypercolor, I get like, it's almost like it's just that boost of extra shine, which is really, really good. So that's really what we need to do when we're targeting people coming in with white bleached hair. It's condition is paramount. Go in, target your areas that need it. And then it's all about aftercare, so recommending the right products. So the rebuilding shampoo and conditioner or mask to take home is really good. Another example is you'll get larger than life regrowths, obviously, because if they haven't had their hair colored for a while, they'll come in with a 3-inch regrowth as opposed to a normal one. This is pretty easy to do. Obviously, if they're a grey hair coverage, we've just got to make sure that you obviously are mixing up a little bit more product. You might be taking finer sections to make sure that the grey hair is saturated with product. Being a non-ammonia based colour, we make a resistant mix. So we change our mixing ratios to 1:1 when we're doing grey coverage. Some ranges have double N series. We don't, being a hybrid, we just have all the one. So our 1:1 ratio is our double N series. So doing that's really, really important. So that's a really simple way to fix that, is just to make sure that you're putting a lot of product on and you're going out, and then your development time is minimum 45 minutes for grey coverage. When they come to you with a larger regrowth, and they could be like a level 7 copper on the ends, and they could be a level 4 on the roots. So you've got a very large dark regrowth line with a lot of orange ends. I would then treat that as a virgin head lighten application, so to avoid any root glow on the roots. So once again, it's a little fiddly doing this, but you'll need to go through, choose your target color that you're lifting to, and go a higher level, one level higher with the developer, and apply that, as an inch off the scalp on that mid band of dark area to your existing copper. Then you would go back and apply your target shade with a lower level lower developer, or the one that you would have normally used just on the regrowth area had it been a 6 or 8 week regrowth, and then matching up your ends, whether they just need refreshing with H-tone as well. In that case, you will generally get a very even result. I would also do a little bit of blending with your application, just make sure the color's mushed in a little bit. Sometimes I will let that color process, rinse it off, and then go back with a target and make a demi-permanent or a semi-permanent with that, to go from roots to ends then. So you've lifted up that mid-band, you've matched in your roots, process that for 35 to 40 minutes because you want that mid-band to be on for a little bit longer, because you might have used 30 volt to give you that extra bit of lift. Rinse that off, then go back through with your target shade, using your H-tone and H-milk, and make a 4.5 volt and go roots to ends, just to clean it out, even it out, and avoid any unnecessary banding in there as well. And then hopefully they get to come every 6 to 8 weeks and you'll be fine with that. So I've done that and it works really, really well. Obviously just treating it like it's a virgin lightning application with that. So obviously with your regrowth applications from your bleaching clients. So this is another challenging one that we're going to face if they haven't had their hair or regrowth bleach done in say 3 months generally. And I don't know about you guys, but I always, when you're doing a full head lighten, you really don't want that client to be any longer than a 5-week period, because it creates too much length. And obviously our heat our scalp creates heat and therefore you'll get a beautiful lift on the roots, and then you'll get an area of like 0.5 centimetre to 1 centimetre where it just doesn't have that kick in it, and then you'll have their blonde ends as well. There's no real win-win in this situation. It's just your application. There's so many ways you could do this. You could actually just, and I've done it both ways. You could do your regrowth application as per normal with your 20 or 30 vol, let it process, rinse it, then go back in and reapply that band out with your cotton wool just to lift it out. And you could probably get away with using H-tone to do that with H-bleach. The other way is to go in and do a double application. So you could do your regrowth area. I've tried to do it the other way, whereas I've used 30 vol on the mid band and then gone back and done my roots. I just found it really tricky to go back and resection. It's just really hard when you're doing scalp lighteners to separate the hair after you've done it, when it's not on the roots. So I would do my roots and then go back through with a vol higher and do that band, just bearing in mind you want to be very careful with your application when you get to the existing blonde that you don't overlap that too much, if any. The great thing about H-bleach is it's not really a swelling bleach. So you do have to make sure that you take finer sections and put enough product on. We say put it on like peanut butter, not Vegemite, because the hair needs a lot of product on it because it's not going to swell and push in. The added benefit for non-swelling is it's very unlikely that if your foils bleed, it's due to the product. It's generally an application issue because it doesn't swell up out of the foil. And secondly, when you're doing a full head application, you don't get the bleach running up the hair shaft and causing damage or breakage on the existing hair. Sometimes if it's on short hair, I'll put a little bit of H milk on the ends of the hair as well before I apply the H bleach, and that just works as a barrier to help protect that as well. And if it does overlap a little bit, it just slows everything down and brings that speed down, so you've got the time to let your color process as well. Is there any questions on what we've covered so far with applications and things like that? No? Cool. And then obviously we run into another issue with post-lockdown, and that's pre-pigmentation. So our pre-pigmentation guides not really in any sort of Oway literature. So I think when you're doing pre-pigmenting, if someone comes into you and they've done some home lightening, it would be amazing if they said, you know what, I've tried being light, I think I want to go back dark again. And I'd be like, thank you. That's so much easier to be able to do that. But then it also runs into, during your consultation, you've got to reassess, how many shades lighter are we? Do we need to pre-fill, rinse, and then apply our target color? Do we do a double application of color, whether it with a permanent first and then a semi-permanent afterwards? Do we put our filler in with our tint and do it all in one go? Or do we put our filler on, process it, rinse it? Or do we put our filler on, wipe it off and put our target color over the top? There is no wrong way to do this, okay? It all gets down to what head of hair it is, the texture, how many levels back you're going, and obviously the color result you want. Your final result is, what do I tone with? So a lot of, what do I fill with? So a lot of companies will have a preset filling guide. I find that if I work to those and I want a natural result and I fill with copper and then I put my target color over it, it's not natural. It always ends up being way too warm. So I've kind of rejigged a lot of companies that I've worked with to my own formulations, and I stick with that no matter what brand I use, and it always works for me. So I think depending on whether you're wanting a cool result, I break it down into 3 categories. I've got a cool result, I've got a neutral result, and then I've got a warm result. So each one of those categories tells me what my pre-filling tone is going to be. The levels of variation between where I'm starting from and where I'm going is going to give me the technique I'm going to use, okay? Whether it's pre-filling and processing or it's going to be mixed in. So if I'm wanting a cool result, I will always use gold and or half base with that, with my pre-fill mix. So we are a warm-based color anyway, as we all know that. So putting a natural over the top of blonde hair doesn't give you that real flat, manky green look that a lot of other color companies can do, or cool-based companies, I should say. I wouldn't go straight in with a cool color in a 0 or a natural, because you're going to get a pretty flat result. Ours, you're pretty safe with that. But using gold or half gold and half natural as my fill tone, if I want a cool result, because then my target color is going to be an 01 or a half 1, half 0, or a straight 1 over the top of that. So I've got enough warmth pigment in that to go over it. Then when the color might shift or fade over time, I'm not going to be left with an orange undercoat and have that client come back and say, it's too red. Okay. And it's only red because we filled with orange. Okay. So we've made the problem ourselves to start with. If I'm wanting a neutral result, I will fill with gold or golden copper. So predominantly it's going to be straight gold, but sometimes I'll put a little bit of a 3-4 pigment in it, depending on what level I'm working on. So obviously on a 6, I'd use a 3-4. If I was on a 7, I'd just use a gold, or an 8, I'd just use a gold to fill with for a more of a neutral result. On a warm result, I would obviously use a copper gold or a straight copper or a red, depending on what level I was filling to. Obviously, if you're going from a 9 to a 5, you've got all your different techniques. So I always do one to 2 levels, depending on the color result. I will sometimes just mix a quarter of my color as my fill shade, and the other 3/4 is going to be my target shade. And I find with one application, that's generally enough. It might need a semi-permanent or a demi put over again at the basin just for 15 minutes or so, 15 to 20 minutes, depending. But generally, if it's one level, you're going to be okay with that. If it's any more than that, then, and it's faded out, so say like at your level, I'll give you an example on the 1 to 2 level. Say, for example, you're a level 4 and the ends are faded out to a 5 and you want a 4 natural result. You're obviously going to be using H-tone because you're only going 1 level darker. There's no gray involved in this, so you don't need 20 volt. You could do 3/4 4.01 and a quarter 4.3. So I'm putting the gold back in there that the 401 will need to sit on. So my 401 comes out as a neutral result. Okay, and I've got the 1 in there because a level 4 on a 4, there's a lot of orange red in there and I don't want that. So that 40% 1 in that mix is just going to create enough ash just to blush that. So I'm left with more of a neutral result. If the color was 2 or more levels more, that's when I would go in and fill. So choose your filler tone based on where you want to sit. And then go in with that tone, whether it's cool, neutral or warm. I would mix my H tone with my H milk, equal parts, and give myself a 4.5 volt to do that fill tone with. So you're making more of it like a semi-demi sort of color result. Process that for 30 minutes, rinse it, rough dry off, and then apply your target color over the top. The other way you can do it, and I do this quite a little bit as well, is by mixing up that tone filler, putting it on, and then getting my fingers and pinching the hair in sections and wiping the color back off. So it's creating a stain. I mostly do this if it's just a little bit of color on the end. So say you've got like 2 or 3 inches on the ends that you're coloring back. If it was like a regrowth area and you had like, 10 inches of hair, I probably would let it process, rinse it. But if it's just a small amount and I wipe it off, just make sure that you want to make sure that there's enough color left on because you want it to develop a little bit, obviously, but you don't want to wipe it all off, but it's just enough to stain it. So when you put your target color straight over it, you've got that underlying pigment that you fill with just processing enough, then your other color will process over the top of it and it'll wash off and you'll get a really beautiful fill tone with that as well. Has anyone tried that? Or do you do those sort of techniques? Oh, you should give it a go. It works really well, really well. And it's a time saver in the salon too, especially if this is a color correction and they've come in and you're thinking, oh, I've got, 45 minutes to apply this color. You think if you had to do a filler, process it, rinse it and dry it, and your next client turns up and then you've got to put another color on if you don't have an assistant or someone free to help you. So I find in that case, it's a really good way of, put in some H Restore spray, put the color on, wipe it off, roots to ends as your target color and let it all process together. It works really well, really well. Lovely. So I'm pretty sure we've covered most of the color issues that are going to arise. And I think today I just really wanted to go over ways that we can use our H system. Obviously, I forgot to mention H-Tech shampoo. He's really, really, really good when you're removing overtoned color buildup from color shampoos as well. I tend to do that the same way as I would apply 0.0. If it's not as much of a buildup when I've done my foil work, I will just lightly spray the hair down with a little bit of water or H Restore and massage the H-Tech shampoo into the ends of the hair that are sitting out and just leave it on the whole time to process. The longer he's on, the better he'll work. He has a very high pH of like 9.5 to 10.5, which is pretty much where we sit in our H color, tube of color. So it's really going to open that cuticle and allow that pigment to break down a little bit when we rinse that out. So he's really good to remove that as well. The only other thing I haven't covered is henna, removing henna. So I don't know if you guys get a lot of that happen in the salon, but obviously, you know, home henna is something that a lot of clients do like the idea of toying with at times. I know it's popular, waves in and waves out, depending on where you live in Australia. I think here in Queensland, up north, we have a lot of clients that like the whole henna thing. It's kind of that natural hippie vibe up in the mountains and they love henna. You have to just be careful when you're colouring over henna, especially lightening. It's going to reduce your levels of lift. It's going to be uneven depending on how much henna's built up in the hair. I would never colour anyone's hair with henna without doing a detox first. So we have some henna removal techniques that I can send out to you guys. There's two ways of doing it. One is with vodka. That's probably the most expensive way to do it. And it's a bit of a shame to be tipping vodka on the hair. So, you know, up to you. You can get affordable vodka, but I still, it's you know, weird. And then the other one is doing another wash and you're using lemon juice and things like that. So I can send out those henna removal guidelines. It's just really good to have as a template in the salon because you never know when that will happen. And the more washes you do, the more it removes. So it'll remove a certain amount. So if they've got a lot of buildup in their hair, you'll get rid of, say, 40%. Then you'll need to do another one. And because it's softened down, you'll get rid of maybe 50% of that. Then you only have the third one to remove the last little bit. If they've just had, say, one application, one wash or detox with these henna removal techniques is pretty good. So if there's, and you're never going to get it totally out of the hair, but at least it's going to allow enough space because henna, as we all know, coats the hair shaft and stains it as opposed to works from inside out. So a buildup of henna is going to stop our color molecule from getting deeper into the hair shaft. And it's also going to reduce the ability of H bleach or any lightening products to lift that out. So it's really important to give it a bit of a detox before we do that. Do you guys have H Bright in the salon at all? Anyone? You do? Bren does, yeah. Okay. So H Bright comes in a bottle like this. Okay, this is the shampoo. This is H Bright, comes like that. It's a liquid. Probably one way to describe its action is it's a product that can break a base. Okay, so it gives you a lifting action. It's another really good soft way to remove color. Say if the ends were flat and dull because they've been colored at home and but they're matching up okay, and you can think, okay, well, they're a level 6, but they're a little bit flat. You can do your regrowth application of your color that you're going to do, which says could be 6.3 and 6.0. And then you think, okay, I just want to add some shine through the ends, but I want it to pick it up and brighten it. You could do your 6.3 through the ends without your 6.0, and you can put about 10 mils of H Bright into your product. I'm going to be honest, it's one of our less utilized products, but there are so many different uses for it. So I have a H Bright session coming up in a few weeks as well. And I'm going to run through how H Bright's used, using it on its own as a standalone treatment, using it mixed in with our colors and also our H Melt drops. It's a beautiful tool to lift and cut up. So you will get a quarter to half a shade lift of your pigment when you mix H Bright in with your catalyst when you're running color through the ends of your hair as well. So that's another way of just softly doing it. Whereas you might think, I need a quick bleach cleanse at the basin before I do the ends. You can just put H Bright into your product and it does the same thing. It's amazing. Really, really good. So that could be something, you know, guys, that you might want to think about, or jump on to the other one when we're talking about H Bright if you can. Like I said, these Zooms, I'll be recording them. So if it's something you want to access later and listen to the information, but H Bright's a really good tool to use when you're lifting up or just getting that little bit of flatness or dullness out of the color. And you can use them as a standalone treatment on their own as well. So if you just want to clean the ends out, you just need to make sure that you don't put it on the regrowth area at the same time as the colored area, because it's going to lift up uneven, because obviously one's natural, one's artificial. But if you're coloring the roots, then it's safe to put it on the ends. But if it's a standalone shine treatment, you either lower your vol and go from roots to ends so you don't get any lift. But I love it. It's a really good product and it makes the hair super shiny. It's really cool. And then just listing through our products that we can recommend to take home. So we've got our Rebuilding Bath and Mask, which is obviously going to be your go-to when you want to restructure this hair at home. You're not going to get that real stiff, strong, rough protein feel with these products. They are all moisture balanced as well. The in-salon treatment with the Rebuilding Mask, the serum itself is the protein, and we add moisture or a repair complex to that. So your take-home versions are a mix of both. So the client might need to use them the whole time, but it's definitely something that they could start with, do a course of, and then go back over to color protection or moisture or even volumizing if that's what they need to use. But it's a really good one to target that hair that's been real damaged with lightning. Obviously, you've got your moisture bath and your color protect. Your color protect has protein and vegetable protein in it as well. It's really good. I think that's underutilized when we come to a lot of our blonde clients. The color protect range is perfect for blondes that don't need that full-on protein reconstruction. I would go there. Your serums, Silk and Glow, Glossy Nectar, Smoothing Fluid, and your Smoothing Cream all have thermo heat protection in them, which is really good. So obviously we'll have clients that'll have damaged hair, but they still want to blow dry it, they still want to straightening iron it, they still want to put curls in it. They're going to, whether you tell them not to anyway. So at least you guys backing it up with these products. All our styling products will have the vegetable protein base in them and some polymers. It's your polymers and your vegetable protein together which give you heat protection. All our products will give you blow dry or thermal heat protection, but your real go-tos for your hot irons and your curling wands, obviously your heat protection spray will. I don't straight iron with that. I find there's too much style hold in it, but I will use a wand with it. And a curling iron, but I won't curl my curls with a straightening iron because I find it can grab a little bit, and that's that, 30% of the styling product kicking in. So it's designed to protect the hair and also give it hold. So it's great wrapping it, but not sliding it, if that makes sense. But anything like a Glossy Nectar, Silk and Glow serum, and your 2 out of your smoothing range will also give you heat protection from your irons, because the oils have a much higher burn point than what a moisturizing complex or a polymer will. So that's where you get that heat protection from your oil to back up your work, which is really good. So I hope I've covered pretty much the worst case scenarios that can happen. And if you've got some quick and easy little tips to go to and to give you some guys some help and advice on that with clients is really good. We can have a Q&A if anyone's got any questions or any other topics they wanted to cover while we're on here. Far away. Eve, you're on. We can hear you.
Okay. I was just wondering, could I be sent through the recording, please?
Yeah, of course.
Because I was cutting in and out, so I missed a little bit of it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What I'll do when we've got it all done in MP3, we'll send through the recording to you. And then if anyone else wants it, particularly if they want to hear me yabble on again, which I don't blame you if you do it, not. You can just let me know through emailing the rep or my email address is in HubSpot as well, and you can just we'll send it out through to you as well. If you've got other staff members that you wanted to show them, that's fine to do that too. Cool, lovely. So any other questions or anything?
I just have one more. Sorry. Yeah. I think I missed this bit anyway. After a color, do you H balance before you do the color, or because I always do the H balance shampoo and conditioner after I do a color?
Yes, that's how you use it. Yep.
Yeah. So do you do it before a toner or after a toner?
So I would remove your H bleach or color first with your H balance shampoo. Yep. Then you would apply your toner.
Yeah.
Yep. And let that process. Now, because your toner is being, you're using your H tone and then you're diluting it with H milk to get your 3 vol or your 4.5 vol. You've got a lot of conditioning agents in it as well. So you've actually got less product when you're toning as well. So I always feel the texture. If I'm concerned that the shampoo that I'm going to do is going to lessen my result long term, I would just make sure that I've really, really emulsified it, rinsed it out really well, and then go in with my H balance mask, because that's on for 5 minutes. So that will actually help neutralize that oxidization as well. But if you're concerned and you need to do a H balance shampoo, just make it really light. You know, don't go scrubbing it and leaving it on for too long, because you don't want to compromise that extra wash with the toner. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, case by case, technically, yes, you need to shampoo, but just, you know, be creative, be your judge on that. And if you feel that, you know, the hairs, you've already given it one, you've removed the H bleach, you haven't had the H color on there for 45 minutes, giving you grey coverage and things like that. This is a toning service. It's generally on, like we said, 5 to 20 minutes. So you've got a lot more H milk in your product. You mightn't necessarily need to give it another wash. Your H balance mask will do enough, but just, yeah, case by case with that.
Okay, yeah, because I've been just rinsing out the colour and then applying the toner and then doing the H balance shampoo and conditioner. So that's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, technically you do need to remove, especially with H bleach, you want to break it down and you want to stop that oxidization and just remove any sort of bleaching product in. And I'm not saying it's you rinsing it. It could be one of your assistants or a colleague, or they might have had a bad day. They might miss a little bit something, especially with forehead bleaches and things like that. And if there's any sort of color sitting there, it's going to affect your toner. So you really need to give it even just one really good wash to make sure that your canvas is even again. And if it's towel dried, and like I said, I always spray a little bit of H Restore through the hair before I put the toner over the top as well. And you want the hair clean and even for that to go on as well. So you get more of an even coverage of that. So yeah, always wash after your color, pre-toning. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
All right, no worries. Cool. Lovely. Well, all right. Thanks again, guys, for joining in. If you do have any other questions or whatever, you can always email me or ring me. I've always got my phone on me. But it's been really lovely seeing, you know, your faces again and those who I haven't met. And if you've got any more Zooms booked in, you know, I'll see you tomorrow or in the next few weeks coming up as well. But lovely. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope you've all taken away a little bit of something. I know depending on how long you've been using the product, you're all going to get different things out of it. But yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. Have a great afternoon. See you later.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.